Operation Kraken could win the Nazis the war. And every second we waste following protocol...
Hello everyone, and welcome to Sniper Elite 5 developer playthrough and commentary. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered how Sniper Elite levels were made? What makes a great video game level anyway? I'm Serge, your host, joined by Ian. Both of us work as level designers. Alongside special guests, we will walk you through the entirety of Sniper Elite 5 campaign with a focus on level design. We will answer questions from the community and offer insights into our creative process. So join us on this journey where we show you what we do with the boxes. Hey everyone, Future Serge here. Before we dive in, I've got some good news and some bad news to share. Let's start with the bad. We ran into some technical issues during recording that affected the video and Ian's audio quality. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it until after we finished, so there wasn't a chance to re-record. Apologies for that. These things just happen and we'll do better next time. Now for the good news, our guest's audio was not affected and none of the content was lost, so if you can overlook a few visual and sound issues, it's still going to be a great episode. We've got a lot of cool stuff lined up and I really hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Whiteboxed. We're back after holidays, Christmas break, New Year's. I'm your host Serge, and as always with me is Ian. Hey Ian.
Hello.
Ian is at the controls once again, and we're back with Carl, who had a pretty rough day last time we saw him. His boat was destroyed, his buddies were beat up, but he's now out for revenge.
He had to use a lot of bandages and first aid kits.
Yes. And he arrived to Château, which is the second level of Sniper Elite 5, and who is better to talk about that than the man who made it? Please welcome the level designer of that level. Jim, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what was your role on Sniper Elite 5 and maybe what you're up to these days.
Hey, nice to be here. My name's Jim Hargreaves. I was a level designer on Sniper 5 from the start, and eventually I took over the second level in Château. I sort of worked at Rebellion for quite a few years. Left right at the end of Sniper's development to sort of go on a 2-year walkabout, and I've recently rejoined Rebellion to work on a new project because I missed it.
Unannounced project. Actually, it's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to that one. Look forward to that. Actually, I think Jim is a bit understanding himself. He's, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but you were actually on the team for Sniper Elite 3 as well.
Yeah, I joined halfway through Sniper 3, ended up doing sort of a junior designer on that, and then I worked on Sniper 4. I did the dockyards level for that, and on Sniper 5, I was one of two designers on it from the very start, so I kind of ended up working on most of the levels at the very, very early white box stage. But then as more designers jumped onto it, I kind of ended up working just on Château primarily.
Nice.
And overseeing a bunch of other stuff like traversal and technical stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, actually that makes sense. We'll talk about the Château specifically because you were so early on it. It was actually the level that was completed probably the earliest, I remember, and I really enjoyed that level, and I remember going back to it as reference for a lot of things I did in Secret Weapons. Just, you know, if I was confused how to set up a thing or how we did actually do it in the Sniper Elite, then that level was always a good reference to that. Cool. Ian, why don't you hang around in the menus, check your weapons, check your setup. I'm gonna do a bit of a housekeeping before we start. Specifically, I just want to do a couple of corrections that we got as a feedback from community. Thanks guys for that in the comments. So one of them was that we mentioned corner melee kills last time. I think we said that they were introduced in SC5. That was incorrect. They were introduced in SC4. Another thing was that we mentioned flare guys, and that in SC4 they called reinforcements. That was also incorrect. They in fact called in artillery strikes. And the radio operator was the one that brought reinforcements in SC4. Another thing I would like to mention is that something I kind of touched upon last episode was that our work on the difficulty balancing. While I was sharing the story about how our air was at one point ridiculously brutal, I mentioned that players wouldn't actually want that. and that sometimes people don't know what they actually want. In hindsight, I probably could have phrased that a bit better. It was two different conversations. Typically, I love hard games. I'm a fan of Dark Souls, and I always play on the hardest difficulty because honestly, I think most games hit their difficulty ceiling way too early. But that's a separate topic, and it's completely valid for people to want more challenging Sniper Elite experience. I get it. I mean, if you're listening to this show, you're probably one of our biggest fans, so I hear where you're coming from. And this is kind of a big topic around Sniper Elite games in general, online. That said, I think it's important for us to put this in perspective, and to help with that, actually, I've got some telemetry data to share. It's not a secret that we, like other developers, gather statistical data on how players interact with our games. Things like choices they make and actions they take. These charts here are specifically for the difficulty setting. And as you can see, we have, well, I mean, the pie chart speaks for itself, really. The medium difficulty setting is the king, really, which is fair enough. I think that's pretty understandable. I think a lot of players just assume that most games are designed by default for medium setting, which is fair enough. I think that's also true for Sniper Elite. We then have, so that's about 55%. Then we go to easy setting, which is about 15% of players would choose that. And then afterwards, we have very easy with about 12.5%. And with hard, another almost 10, I guess. And that kind of rounds up it to about 80%, something like that. So then what we're left with is authentic, which is about 6%. That's, I think, already is pretty telling. And I think we have to consider that amongst those 6%, maybe some percentage of that thought that actually authentic was hard enough and they wouldn't really want anything harder. So less than 6% are the amount of players that would actually even want anything harder than authentic. So what do you guys think? Do these numbers surprise you, Ian?
No, I mean, our most hardcore players are going to be the most vocal. So people who play on higher difficulties or want more challenge to the game are going to be a disproportionately larger number of people who are on Reddit, on social media, on the comments of these videos commenting. And, it's fine because I think Rebellion does a lot of catering towards the most hardcore players who are really into Sniper Elite.
Yeah, I think we do that. I mean, even just looking at authentic, you could, someone could make an argument that it maybe shouldn't have existed because so few players would actually engage with it. But like we discussed this offline as well with Ian, and it kind of like, numbers not everything. There's definitely value in adding this things like this for players who really want it, but at the same time we need to balance that with an actual real life results of how many players would actually engage with it, and it's really not that many, unfortunately. So that's that with that. Yeah, I think we are all set to jump into the level. Ian, if you want to start.
I stuck with the default gear. I think I have some DLC stuff unlocked, but want to get the vanilla and intended experience.
That's fun.
We put a dent in the Atlantic Wall battery, but at a heavy price. And now I'm stuck behind enemy lines. My contacts have identified SS Officer Abelard Moeller as the butcher behind the local atrocities. Moeller has seized Château de Berengar and turned it into his personal Nazi stronghold. I'm going to pay him a visit. Let's get this bastard Moeller.
He's not here.
What?
Moeller and his entourage are gone. Charlie tells me that in Italy you are known as the Shadow. We need an infiltrator. The intel you recovered, it has confirmed our suspicions. Moeller is in charge of some special project, top secret. If there is a lead anywhere, it will be here.
must be our infiltrator. They've relaxed security in Muller's absence, but they still have guard posts on all the river crossings. We've scouted the area and made...
This is an interesting change of kind of pace for Sniper Elite 5. We now have this bit of a peaceful zone with your allies here.
Bonne chance.
Yeah, I really wanted to start it off with pretty resistance heavy. Also, fun Easter egg, if you wander off, I had an extra line. One of them calls you rude, I think.
If I was to head off somewhere around here.
Now if you head off into the level.
So right here at the start, there'll be a really cool moment. Obviously, Sniper Elite 5 has these iconic reveals, I guess, and I always thought that in this level it was really well done in a way that you have this. At first, it looks like a simple path of left or right, but it actually does such a good job of kind of guiding the player and at the same time showing off what it's all about. You can see the chateau there in the distance, and then you have these clear left and right paths, and they will, depending on what you take, they'll take you a completely different way around the level. Jim, is that something how did that come about, this kind of setup here?
Well, from the very start, really, I always liked the idea of starting with your main objective straight ahead of you and giving the player an easy left-right choice at the very beginning. And trying to just frame the tip of it so you can see, so you can't see too much, so we're not messing with occlusion, but you can see just enough to see like your main objectives. So you've got the tower to your left, you've got that to your right, and then over to your right, you've got that sort of farmhouse which looks a bit more wooded, a bit less inviting perhaps than the other two.
Would you recommend us to take left or right for this kind of playthrough? Just because
probably to the left.
Left. Okay, let's take that. Yeah.
This is also, I think there were birds in Coast as well, but they are. I don't remember if these were there when I first started working the level, but make sure really clear that players know how birds work, because I think there's quite a few of them across the level. I don't think there was many in Mission 1. I think also that Coast is a level set at night, and I feel that the stakes been really raised by how are you going to sneak into this place in broad daylight. It's thematically it's more exciting. It sounds like a greater challenge.
I can give you a bit of background on the level if you'd like.
Of course, yeah.
Kind of when it came to designing this, I always wanted the second level in the game because the first level is always kind of a tutorial level. So for a lot of it, you're being taught stuff. So for the second level in the game, that's kind of the first chance the players got to take the training wheels off, to kind of for us to go, here you go, do your own thing. So I wanted a few things from it. I wanted it to really hammer home the theme, to be like the most French level you could imagine, hence the chateau. The other thing was to be really, really simple, all right, and not very difficult. Those were the kind of the three main things I was looking for.
Yeah, it's definitely, first of all, it looks gorgeous, I would say. I think this is very, very French, like you mentioned, and I think a lot of people I talked to about this level afterwards, they were like, wow, this is like, shows off the Frenchness. There's the gardens, the chateau, everything. And yeah, like this map isn't like the biggest one we had in the end, but it has like just everything in everything the Sniper Elite 5 is all about in some form. So it's really cool. Actually, I think it's a good idea to start with the first community question because it's kind of somewhat related to this. Was there ever a plan to include more in this mission? More, I guess, spaces, more objectives, more everything? Or what was the process of, like, did you have to at some point cut it down to size?
Interestingly, no. I always wanted this to be quite a small level because I find designing within constraints can be quite sort of liberating in a way. And it was, from the very start I knew this would be the second level and I wanted it to be simple, so I almost started with a list of here's the stuff that's not in here. Like, I'm not going to have tanks, I'm not going to have like artillery guys, I'm going to keep it to just the simple stuff, trying to draw stuff back and trying to maintain that clarity of purpose. When it comes to the objectives as well, I want to just like go over there on the other side of the map and do the thing. and then leave, and keep it really, really simple.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just to give the players space to find out what this game's about, right? If you're new to the franchise, without sort of overwhelming them with just loads of stuff. So yeah, it was always, weirdly, it was always kind of this small.
Mhm.
And kind of happy with that. Kind of happy with how it turned out.
Yeah,
It certainly feels like
Eyes-wide.
the most distilled level in the whole game, the most focused, and I can't imagine making a Sniper Elite level much smaller than this, but I mean that as a compliment.
Thanks.
So, with that in mind, which objective do you think we should start with? Considering we're going from left side, anything that would make sense to kind of start with?
Trying to think. Before we go to that, I just wanted to mention that structurally the level's quite simple as well. It's here's your objective. The main route to it is heavily guarded, so you can take either left or right, the flanking routes. And I think on the map I heavily used intel to sort of encourage you not to take the main route in, but you can if you want. I think objective-wise, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, let's look at the map, see what we have here. I think so. On the left there, in that church, was there something specific, or is it just a path to the?
You can't go inside the church. I think you can find the usual intel
Right.
and things like that around here.
Okay, maybe we can go from the left side then. Like
Yeah,
that.
that's usually the way I take
Yeah.
when I play this. This is also a great safe area to get accustomed to. I should say that Coast, the first level, ended up being pretty large and sprawling if you want to take it that way. But it was clear that most players going to the level wouldn't engage with a lot of things. This is another great sort of tutorial opportunity to observe the cars that patrol in and out of the front doors. And as you say, Jim, it makes it really clear that this is the very reinforced front way in, and you're going to have a very hard time if you want to get to level this way.
Yeah.
There's points and everything.
Yeah, definitely. I did have a tank on that, guarding that main bridge for quite a long time, but eventually I removed it because, kind of what I said earlier, it feels too early to chuck a tank at you in this.
Yeah, for sure. We talked to back about this as well. It's that whole thing of trickling the new stuff as you go along. Tanks is a kind of end game thing, and it would be a bit odd to have it so early in the game at level 2. Now, one thing I want to mention about this level is that it uses a very specific technique that is called the beehive. And what it is you have some sort of point of interest at the start, in the middle somewhere, that's full of enemies, and you allow players to infiltrate it in many different ways. And essentially that's what you have in this level. The chateau is that beehive, which is full of enemies, and will give players a bunch of ways to get inside of that. Jim, was that always your intention of doing that way, or did it just come naturally in the end?
Yeah, very much so. That was kind of the vibe I wanted from the start. Initially, I think I wanted to do a bit more with when you poked the beehive to have sort of patrols emerge from that central building and come and get you when you cause a disturbance, but without the view of that, I found it really hard to explain the cause and effect of that, so I ended up just removing it in the end.
Yeah,
Guys would just turn up and you wouldn't know why, because you wouldn't be able to see the main chateau or the path they took.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So in the end, I went with essentially going with quite a sparse enemy population that gets increasingly dense the closer you get to the chateau, and it kind of gives the similar effect, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And it allows you to mess up as well without sort of chaining that alarm all the way across the map.
Ian.
Sorry, I got it.
Nice. I think it's worth doing another community question because it's kind of related to that, and I suspect we may not end up going that way, so I'm just going to ask it right now. The underground tunnel was a great addition. Were there any plans for more underground roads?
Well, the chateau is quite heavily based on a real-life chateau called Chateau de Breze in France. It's in the Loire Valley. if you look at pictures of it, you'll see a few similarities. And they had sort of mass network of underground tunnels, which I always thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And I experimented a bit with it in these sort of early stages of the level. But there was a couple of issues. I kept finding that just the space wasn't really needed. It was cool, but there wasn't really enough gameplay to justify it. It was an interesting space because it was quite close quartersy, but there were also quite a few sort of alert propagation, sound occlusion issues, right? When you've got underground area, thin bit of ground, guys above and below, they could, it just ended up being a bit more trouble than it was worth. So I kind of slimmed it down a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's similar to what we talked about in the first episode as well with Beck, where there was a lot of spaces in that level where, they look nice, they had nice buildings, but at the end of the day, they were out of the way. Players would have nothing to do with in them, and we just didn't even have enough enemies to populate there. So at some point, you just have to make the decision to cut something or just not include it in that way.
Yeah. Personally, I'm really quite avid about that. I only want to make as much level as there is gameplay to fill it. I don't like empty space.
Yeah.
So up here, this is a great spot to tag people and plan where you're going to head next, usually that farm. You've got a couple options. You can head down here, you can zip line over. But this is also a great spot to set up some long shots. And I've got a question for you, Jim, actually, with these long shots. From here, I believe there is someone down the right path. If you'd started the level and gone to the right, there was someone that you could take out. Maybe it wasn't this tower, it was a different tower. But there's also some significantly long shots that you can make through this foliage to like this infantry guy. Pretty hard to tag through here, but I tagged him earlier on, so I think I could shoot him from here. He's 260 meters away, which is pretty far. I'm wondering if for you, if these long shots were planned, as in from towers like these, this being one of the highest points you can get to the map, that you wanted a long shot in these spots, or if they just came about a bit more naturally, just as a result of being up high and these targets from far away that you can inevitably shoot.
A bit of both, really. That one you just pointed out was kind of a surprise. But there's quite a few planned ones. There's a really nice one from the ford. If you took the right route, you can shoot all the way down the river and take out the couple of guys that are chatting on the bridge to your left.
Here's one. There is a guy that patrols across. I'm not sure if you had planned it, but when I was working on this level, and for viewers, Jim had left the company, and then when I joined the company, I was assigned to pick up this level while Jim was away. And I noticed that we had this window, and I can't remember if there was an enemy up there or not, but I changed his patrol route so that he would sometimes walk along this window.
Oh, nice.
And you could get one of the longer shots in the level if you and things had synced up so well with these trees framing this window that I had figured that you'd intended for this angle to be.
Oh, that is a happy accident. That's a good spot by you, I think.
Yeah, that window looks like it was born to be a long shot.
I think when I left, the longest shot that I knew of was from, I don't remember, from somewhere on the left in that farmyard, right to the sniper in the that overlooks the whole rear of the chateau.
I looked it up after the game came out, and the longest shot that I saw on this level was people get on top of this roof, or they go prone around here. And there's a very long shot. I'll see if I can.
I think that's the same. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm on about.
Slide right off here.
Gameplay.
Hey. I also like that it just feels dangerous to be on these paved roads that are sort of between these bays of stealth grass and waist-high cover. Anytime you approach an objective in an early level like this, there's so much grass and safe spaces to recon. And then usually the further you get in the game, the harder it is to make these kinds of observations before you walk into, you're usually going in more blind when you approach a point.
Spent a lot of time on the cover around the roads and the layout of that. Just to try and get that feeling. Like, it's not actually that threatening. The traffic along those roads is very rare, but it feels scary.
Well, I was gonna say the traffic is rare, but it's still there, right? Like you could any road it's in this level, in most other levels, you have a chance of encountering like a truck or a patrol. That's something that one of the newer things we try to have in this game, and I think it actually adds a lot of kind of dynamic gameplay, I guess, emerging gameplay, and that's why maybe like over time, when as you play the campaign, you kind of start learning that hey, actually the roads are not that safe. And I take it to extreme in my level. Once we get to that, I'll talk all about my convoy of death.
Nice.
340. Do it.
Nice.
Here we go. I think there is a side objective here where you can blow up the munitions in this farmhouse.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that one. Yeah, if you binocular it from a distance, you can pick up a bit of intel, I think, from conversations.
And do you have any charges?
I don't think I do, but there, usually you're not far from some charges if you need to blow something up in Sniper.
It's been a while. Sadly, I can't remember where I put them.
Well, and so much of these, the pickup placement changed. Near the end of the game, I did a pass, and then Lawrence, our combat designer, did a whole pickups pass of all weapons, and I want to say maybe ammo as well across the game, so that may have included satchel charges.
Yeah, he did all that, weapons, ammo, pickups and charges and everything.
I'd better go somewhere else.
Yeah, the loot distribution is something that you always think that, oh, we can do it quickly, it's so easy, just place a thing and forget about it, but I feel like it always ends up being something we have to keep tweaking very late into development, because so many things change, and then you have to do another pass on all of them, really, sometimes. And
I mean, the whole game's AI changed so much over the course of the game. As you were saying, they became harder to detect you, and less effective in combat. At one point, they had absurd accuracy, kill you in mere seconds upon getting caught. And if you change that stuff, you've got to change the amount of health pickups in the level.
Oh yeah, it was so funny. I remember at its worst in my level, for example, the AI was so accurate and from such a long range that there was a sniper in a tower on the left side of secret weapons, and he was able to snipe you from across the map. You would be doing something completely in a separate location, and then you would just get one-shotted by this sniper, because also in that level all enemies are elites, so it was ridiculous. It was hilarious, but we had to tone it down.
Oh, I can't remember if I just need to blow up. It's not the truck, right? It's this room, right? Just shoot this, maybe?
Do it. Nice.
Ammo dump down.
I'm not sure if Carl even knew that there was. Well, maybe he just looked at it.
It's there. He needs to blow it up.
This is a fun spot. I mean, you have so much opportunity to scout this out, and the obvious path is to actually shimmy along the ledge with people right above you. It's this great kind of spy movie moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I wanted people to do. And this was kind of what I had first in my head when I was thinking about this level, the sort of vineyard approach.
Yeah, and I just want to say that it's such a challenge, though, right? In this case specifically, because this level is so flat. we don't have the luxury of mountains or valleys or nothing. You just we just have to rely on the stuff we build ourselves and artists.
Well, it probably wouldn't have worked if it was a later level, but here there's so much stealth grass and this waste cover that it kind of ends up breaking the sight lines naturally.
Yeah, it's interesting. In early versions of this, it took me a while to settle on exactly where to put the chateau in the level. It spent a fair bit of time at the back, kind of approaching it, and in the end, I found out kind of in the middle almost worked because I'm almost using it as an occlusion blocker. Like it is the mountain, but it's got windows in it.
Yeah.
So got me on the ladder, and I think up here there's a Panzerfaust. Yeah, there was a call near the end of the game, and it was like every level needed a Panzerfaust somewhere.
Yes.
Take down big artillery. Shoot.
Yeah, on Sniper 3, one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is I ended up populating the fort level on Sniper 3. And for the end of that, I was trying to work out how to make an escort mission fun. And my solution was give the guy almost infinite health, stick you on the battlements with infinite Panzerfausts, and have him run into the distance while you blow up Germans. in probably the least stealthy sniper style, but it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Move it.
Probably should have.
Now you've done it, Ian.
It looks very cool. Maybe I'll still shimmy along. We can talk about the traversal system and the amount of polish that it needed.
Well, it needed a lot of polish.
It needed a lot of cleanup from level design.
Yeah, I remember this bridge specifically, Jim, was... I remember we had some trouble with just making it work with all the shimming and climbing around it.
Yeah, the angle on these curved bits is about as tight as our system could handle. It's right on the edge of it. I think interesting when we first introduced the traversal system, there was a lot of talk about exactly how far we go with it and just trying to work out, okay, well, we want to be able to run, jump, and climb over stuff. You got Assassin's Creed on one end of the scale and nothing at the other end. Where do we want to sit on that?
Right. Time to find Muller's office. See what I can find about this special project.
Yeah, I guess for me, I always felt that this system should serve towards the fantasy of, like a spy, kind of climbing, like getting into places you shouldn't, that kind of stuff. Because we do encourage you to be more of a stealthy in this game in general, and I think the system serves that pretty well, I think. What are some of the ways, Jim, maybe some of your favorite ways players can infiltrate the chateau?
I mean, to be honest, this is one of my favorites just because it's the most picturesque, I think. I'm trying to remember if there's any secret ways. There's the underground tunnels is the obvious one. I think you need to steal a key from someone, if my memory serves me right. It's quite amusing just trying to go in the main door. It's a challenge, but it's something quite...
Yeah, I think all the time I play this level, I've never tried the main door because it's just such a psychological effect. Like you never want to try that because everything tells you that, hey, this is very dangerous. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun in doing what the level designer didn't want you to do. Just, a bit of perversity.
I think we ended up with... I think Lawrence put an LMG down that main path.
Nice.
And made it a lot easier to just go full Rambo on the base if you go in that way. Stealthing it would be pretty hard.
Yeah, I think the route I most often took would be to get down into the moat and then climb up into the corner tower.
So, Ian, how are you planning to do this then? I guess from the back?
That's kind of where I've ended up.
Yeah.
But, Let's see. We'll tag some guys and think about it. This is a pretty dangerous area. Obviously, you've got waist-high cover here, but enemies can see right through it. So you're actually quite exposed.
So, Jim, what about the kill this target in this level? Anything special about this guy? Where he is he in the chateau, in the interior?
He's over here in this.
Yeah, I put quite a lot of effort into that guy. If you can manage to sneak up there, it's essentially a bit of an arsehole officer who's playing cards in there with his cronies. Like I put a fair bit of narrative effort into this level. I don't know how much of it people appreciated, but for example, the sniper to your left, I tried to connect through collectibles to like the story of the guy in the ballroom. I think that they'd been stealing the antiquities or something like that. I think his brother's in his brother like barracks above the gatehouse, and they're connected to the main guy whose office is. I tried to basically connect everything together in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if any of that came across to anyone, but it kept me amused.
Yeah, I'm sure some players did find that, and I certainly encourage if someone's watching this video and they haven't tried that, if you want to find everything that this game has to offer on all of the levels, really, try to be very stealthy and explore a lot. And if you do that, I think you'll find that you'll encounter a lot of story bits, conversations, and other things like that we actually put in every level. I certainly know that in my level that I have a lot of like mini storylines that you can find if you just approach it silently and listen and don't go Rambo. Actually, yeah, I remember in this level there's like in that the kill list target is in that ballroom, right? He's playing cards with his buddies. Yeah.
You can drop the chandelier on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, I don't let you drop the chandelier from a distance. Like I purposely wanted to make the player commit to that space so that they could see what the guys are up to and have to drop the chandelier from quite close range. Just I thought that was more interesting than making it a long shot. I'm sure someone's hacked it by this point and worked out a sneaky way of doing that, but
probably. It's like with the long shots, right? We always kind of set up certain positions for long shots, but the community ends up finding so many more ways to get even longer shots.
Yeah, they're like if you jump on this truck and you wait 5 seconds and you look past this tree, you can shoot this guy through a bush and you're like, oh, damn it. That's the best bit of designing, really. It's just having to accept that people are going to do stuff you didn't intend at all. You can encourage as much as you want, but you just got to roll with that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And in fact, it just adds to the game. I think it doesn't detract from it. If they're not breaking anything, then that's absolutely fine. Oh no, Ian!
It had to happen sooner or later. Oh, you just sat down.
Just sit down. Have a rest.
Let's try that again. Ooh, okay. Maybe I will do the moat.
Let's do it.
You can get down from here.
Oh,
I was hoping I could show off the secondary starting point, which is over by the hedge maze. One of the last things design-wise that was touched this level was I was asked to balance that area a little bit to make it more a bit more of a designed approach with better cover and better pickup, so the player could reasonably start there with the default gear and clear the level.
It definitely needed it. I think that was the area I worked on least. He says very professionally.
Hey, deadlines.
Yeah.
I really like this way in. I think this is my favorite as well. Like, it's you feel like you're sneaking in, like in these dark tunnels.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what's more French than a wine cellar?
Yeah.
What's interesting is, despite this level being, as you say, not a lot of wasted space, and you know, one of the smallest, as I said, distilled sniper elite levels, there is still a large amount of space like this where I wonder if some people play these levels and wonder what the purpose of some of these tunnels are, some of these side areas are. And yeah, we end up putting a bit of loot in, but you don't know when you're building the level that you're necessarily going
Short
to
control bursts.
need to have things in here or not. Like this whole tunnel connecting. I suppose it links up to another area. I actually can't remember what this goes out to. But I guess my point is okay, yeah. But when you're building these levels, you know, I assume even when you're trying to make a more distilled level like this, you leave contingency plans, you leave these side rooms that you worry about the purpose of later. Is that how you work?
Yeah, exactly that. And I think it's the best way to work. It's just you try particularly when you're whiteboxing, you try and leave opportunities, right? You know, there's 3 doors to every room, and you know you're probably going to block off one of them. That's fine. And it lets the level stretch and contract in the right ways, which is quite nice. If we decided we need to cut that whole cellar route, you could pretty much block the doors either end, and the level would still work, right?
It's to good use.
Yeah, you're so right about that. The comment about level being able to contract and stretch. It's like if you want to get into that position, essentially at that state of designing a level where it's a possibility for you to do that, because almost always something will come in outside and will tell you, you know what, we need to cut this, or actually someone requested this, so now we need to add it. And if your level is so robust that you can actually handle that easily like that, then you're in such a good place. Honestly, it took me a while to learn that, and like, you know, so many times I would just make a room with one entrance, and then Carl will just go in there and just get stuck, and the enemies are pouring from that one entrance, and then what?
I guess combined with that, the trick is also, though, while you're doing that, is to keep in mind what's the core of your level. Like personally, like when I started on this level, I didn't start building from the start point. I started building, the first thing I built, I think, was the commander's office, that tower. Because I figured that's the most important bit of the level. That's the thing that isn't going to change unless there's a drastic shift in direction, right? So it's kind of identifying which of the areas that are like really key to the thing I'm doing, and then where's my stretch room. At least that's how I like to work. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but
yeah, that makes sense. If you know something's not going to change, or you're fairly certain, then that's really a good place to start, really.
Well, it turned out really well. And I think, you know, you've highlighted that one of the most important qualities of a designer is adaptability.
Yeah, I'd say as well, not getting too attached to stuff. Like, even though I started with that commander's office, if the lead had turned around and said, actually, do you know what, the commander's not a thing anymore, you've got to just be like, oh, okay, and roll with it.
Yeah, not being precious with your work is something it just comes with time. It's to this day I know people that just struggle with that. They really struggle. I get it. It's, you know, it's something you create, and then someone just comes in and says, you know what, that doesn't work. But in your mind, it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah, I found it really tricky at the start of my career. Like when I was just starting out, I always felt like, but this is my best idea. What if I don't have an idea as good as this? But then the more you do, the more confidence I had. Like, I'm going to come up with better ideas. It's fine. I've done this often enough.
Yeah.
You learn to trust yourself, and then.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I used to deal with sort of designer's block, like, you know, that situation where you've got an area and it's not quite right and it's not quite working and you can't work out why. Usually what I do is just delete a big chunk of that area, almost arbitrarily, and then go make something completely different and see if that worked. And it's kind of annoying, but it usually ended up with a better result. Even if that result was, no, actually, I liked it the way it was, but I've worked out in that time what was wrong with it.
Yeah, I actually do that sometimes as well. Just get to that point.
So one of the things that I like about this approach as well, this approach to getting in the chateau, is that here the level says you've made it through most of the level by this point. You've made it through the toughest bits. Now you get to kind of choose how you want to approach the rest of the level from here. You're going to the chateau. You've maybe tagged some of the enemies on the balconies, but you don't really know what you're up against. And here the game says, do you want explosives? Do you want silenced weapons? Do you want pistols, rifles, grenades? You've got it. And you've also got the workbench, so you can tailor your gear for the rest of the level. I feel like one of the cool things about sniper levels compared to a lot of games is we're not too fussed about adhering to a traditional difficulty curve. It's okay to break the rules of the sandbox a little bit and give players moments where they can just, trick themselves out and go guns blazing the rest of the level. And if that makes for a slightly easier experience, that's fine. If you discover a route that lets you cut through most of the level and skip most of it, we are totally okay with you seeing, as we saw with Coast, a very small amount of the level if that's what you actually want to see. Or you can linger around and explore it to your heart's content.
It's interesting you should say that, because there were a lot of concerns in sort of the early snipers, and even this to start with, on playtimes. Right, I think you can golden path this level in about 3 minutes, and there was a lot of feedback along the lines of, but you can run through it in 3 minutes. And eventually we realised that doesn't matter, because people don't.
Yeah.
People play the game for the gameplay, and if you make the gameplay engaging enough, it doesn't matter that you can complete the whole game in an hour.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I would finish Metal Gear Solid 1 in 2.5 hours. That doesn't mean anything.
And once you realise that, it's like you say, it's quite liberating, because then you can be like, actually, we're just going to reward the player. If you do a thing, we're going to reward you in a way that lets you continue to do that thing, but also offer you an opportunity to do a different thing if you want to do it.
Well, that armor is certainly very generous with weapons.
And if you notice, it's directly positioned opposite the stealthiest route in. If you were clever enough to get the key to open that door and then take that passage through, so it is kind of a reward.
Right. So is this the room for? Is this the kill list target room?
Yep. You're listening to my amazing NPC dialogue.
Nice.
So quite a few of the placeholder conversations I wrote made it into the final game.
Oh, nice. Oh.
And if you shoot the chandelier support.
But we need them to go to the table.
Ah, yeah. Ah, I remember now. Yeah, you arrive as the game's breaking up, and one of them wanders off. I think he wanders off all the way to the safe room in the main area, and the other two hang around here.
Yeah, I remember this kind of setup we had to do as level designers for pretty much all of these conversations and scenarios, and it's such a meticulous setup. So many things usually went wrong, but I think it pays off in the end. I think it really adds life to these levels.
Shoot it. Shoot the chandelier.
Better move. Rock up the drop on it.
Nice. Oh wait, it wasn't.
I thought it was the right guy. Sorry, I ruined your moment.
Oh no.
I know what you mean, Serge. There's an awful lot of setup for something that a lot of people aren't going to see, and that's where you kind of got to work out your bang for buck. That's why I think that's the most effort I put into one scenario in this game, and I made it an optional objective.
Yeah, I think it's worth it though. It's so worth it. It's like this is the moments where it makes you feel like you're a spy, sneaking up to that situation, listening to them, taking out that one guard, and then in the right moment, either killing them or just using a chandelier. It's great.
I always found when I played this level, most of the time, I would raise the alarm at some point in here, and I always wish that I was good enough to sneak through the whole thing, because it's such a cool space to be sneaking through. it's almost a shame that at least when I played it, and I assume most players play this, that they end
Got a
up
satchel charge.
ramboing this kind
We
of
should try and find the door key.
at some point sooner or later.
I guess, yeah, if I had to criticize the level, I think like you say, the layout of the chateau interior, it's just a little bit too difficult to ghost your way through. I think perhaps because of all the open windows. There's just too many sight lines to check, right?
They'll find me if I stay here.
Trying to think. If I was doing it again, maybe I'd change the ballroom to have like a brass band playing something loud you could use as a sound mask. That's like loud enough to be chateau wide.
Well, these are the hunter ones, the Jaegers that can resist melee kills. Kind of surprised we're introducing them in the second level. Oof.
Need more bullets.
So did you did you actually look at the blueprints of the actual chateau and kind of how much of that did you use to actually base the layout on?
I used the basic shape of the Chateau de Breze. I really liked. It's similar to this. It's kind of a sort of U shape with one slightly slanty thing that had the moat. For the interiors, it's kind of based a little bit on Waddesdon Manor, which is a manor we visited near to Oxford. More aesthetically, I think, than layout-wise. I think the layout I just sort of came up with. I liked the idea of a central corridor that loops the whole thing and then rooms periodically off to one side or the other.
Yeah.
You know that classic John Romero story of the first level of Doom being a horseshoe? And that he goes for horseshoes whenever he makes his levels because, they say in architecture, when you move around a point, it makes it more exciting to explore.
I did not know that.
It's supposedly they design real world buildings like chateaus around this that when you move around, like in this case that central courtyard, rather than just walking in by kind of experiencing it from multiple angles before you get in, it just makes it more interesting to.
Oh my god. Oh god. Yeah, horseshoe is another actually a level design technique that we use, and I really like it as well. It's a good one. It's always a solid way to design a level.
Better move it, or I'll be discovered.
It's funny though how I mean, Jim, you seem like more of an intuition-based designer than a theory-based one, but that's a totally valid way of working.
Alarms raised.
Yeah, very much.
Sometimes theory is just something that you reverse engineer afterwards, so that if you're making another sequel, you can learn from those lessons. It's like music theory in a way. Nobody sits down. Usually, people don't sit down with a scale to write a song. They just play what sounds good, and if they're stumped, you can always consult the textbooks.
Yeah, interestingly, as sort of in the mid to late stage of my career, he said that sounds a bit grim, but you know what I mean. As I was kind of going from like mid to senior, I found that a bit of an issue actually, because quite often I'd be like, I want to do this thing and I know it's going to work and I know it's going to feel good, but I wouldn't necessarily have the what's the word, the vocabulary to describe exactly why, the technical nous to back it up. So I think in an ideal world, you want a bit of both.
Yeah, definitely the techniques are there to help you in the end. It's not a BNL.
Well, funny enough, as we come to this very important door, I seem to recall when you had come back to Rebellion, I said, I picked up chateau after you had left, and you said, "Okay, cool." And I said, "Was it intentional that the main objective in this whole place is the only room in the building that is off-grid? It's at a 45-degree angle. It's not at a right angle, which I think makes it stick out better in your mind." And you were like, "Oh, that's cool. I didn't know about that. That's a funny coincidence."
I guess, yeah, it was. I think that was where I just ended up. I'm trying to work out whether that was intuition or a happy accident. Somewhere between the two, I think. I think it was the most. I definitely liked the asymmetry of it, and it felt like the most appropriate place to put such a central location, just because the tower fitted nicely. And I think a lot of other stuff I did helped draw attention to it. Sort of guards outside. Have you discovered the side route?
Oh, climbing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I purposely left in, and it's a really easy way to bypass and get in there, but I just don't. I don't like highlight it at all, other than that open window.
Let's do it. I know I just placed the satchel charge, but she's up that you go. Yeah. I might get shot out here, actually. I mean, this is a great kind of moment too, like seeing everywhere that you've come from as you are climbing your way into this.
Oh, you drop down onto that flag.
Yeah.
So let's do another one because it's related to this room. Another community question. Jim, did you ever consider more locations for the antiques for this objective? Obviously, if we did have more and they were random, players would then every time have to actually look for them.
It's an interesting question, that. I think you'd have to look at that level wide, right? All of our antiques are only in one place. I think it would be interesting to randomize their locations. It would help with replayability for sure.
Yeah.
Although I'm still not sure whether I'd go for it, because I really liked the challenge of tying the antique. I didn't just want to place them as random pickups. I wanted them to tie them into one of the narratives, and I tried to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as well, about this question, and I feel like it. Intuitively, you think, okay, this would only benefit this, right? But at the same time, I'm not sure, because it could end up being frustrating if it's always random. Like, even if you just take this chateau building and you just randomize it inside this building, imagine every time you have to do this search, even though you've played this level before. I mean, some people might like it, but there's definitely, arguments against that as well.
If I ever worked on another sniper, it's something I'd definitely be willing to try, just to see how it feels.
This is another cool moment where you give players a deked out pistol with a scope to play with, just for the rest of the level. I mean, you might not be in the level for very long. You might be line to the exit and be out in a few minutes, but I always thought it was cool that we give the player something new to mess with on the way out.
Yeah, it feels like a good reward for the effort that you put to get in there. Side note, I really liked the idea of just poking around this office trying to open a secret compartment. That was one of the first things I started on with this level, and then the rest of the level is just trying to justify that silly idea.
That was made me think of the castle in Indiana Jones, the castle with the fireplace.
Yeah, just this beautiful lush thing, and the nice thing about being in that contained environment is, if we know the players in there, we can spawn new guys. We can spawn more guys in from the outside.
Let's do another question because it's related to this part of the level. When you grab Molly's documents, reinforcements arrive from the north. Why is this the only mission in the game where reinforcements spawn after you complete an objective? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's, for me personally, I don't like spawning reinforcements unless there's an obvious cause and effect, which is kind of hard to do, right? Like, if I've just blown up a thing that might draw in reinforcements would be that massive ammo dump exploding.
Yeah.
I think at one point I did have that, and I think I pulled it out because it felt too early in the level. And even then, I think they took so long to get to you. By the time they arrived, you didn't necessarily realize they'd come for the ammo explosion. So I think, although I do pull reinforcements in here, they're not I don't bring them in hostile. You hadn't alerted everyone; they'd come in passive. I tried to like frame it as, oh, just some trucks of patrols happen to come back at this time, and the purpose of it is less to be like that you've completed the main objective, therefore give you more troops, and it's more to kind of cater for if the player's gone in there and they've cleared out everything. I want to give you some gameplay on the way out, right? I've just given you a cool new gun.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this might be the only level where we do this after objective, but we definitely pull in reinforcements from in other levels for other things. Like in my level, I bring in reinforcements if you alert everything in the dome. If you go in loud to that space, there's reinforcements that will show up. All right, cool. We are almost done here. Let's do another question before we finish here. Has to do with loose ends. Obviously, we're not going to see that now, but people that play this game know about loose ends. It happens at the end of the game. You come back here to snipe the big bad at the end. So part of the mission is reused in loose ends. Was originally a bigger plan for that, Jim?
That's an interesting one. I really liked the idea of returning at the end, just having like a coda level, a little wrap-up level. Like the whole idea of that at the very start was it's just one shot. It takes complete it in 30 seconds, and ideally it could be the longest shot in the game if you wait. And that was the idea. I can't remember if it was always going to be in Château or whether we had a look around and decided Château was the most appropriate place for it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I always remember it being in Château, and very early. I think we might have considered a bit more gameplay in that moment, because what it ended up being is that you just sit there. You can't even move. I think you're just prone, and you just need to make that shot. I think early on we might have had a bit more gameplay, but it's not necessary there. It's just about that last shot.
Yeah, I think if I had the time again, I don't think I want to turn it into a full level. I can understand why people want a full level there. I think maybe you could do a bit more with offering the player more interesting opportunities to have like Rube Goldberg machine like all along the route. You know, if you set up a few more of those. So as you watch the truck drive off, the longer you wait, the more you're rewarded by an increasingly daft way of killing the guy. Would be kind of fun.
Der Walens Ratte
Yeah.
und Bohms Raketen zerstört hat.
All right, cool. And we'll wrap up with the last question we have, which is the one I asked everyone at the end, and that is, what's something you wanted to include in this mission but couldn't for some reason, Jim?
Received from Blue Viper.
Tricky question, because I think I got everything in there that I wanted in the end. I definitely think if I was making the level again, I would do it a bit differently. I think I would want more of the vineyard aesthetic. I'd want to do a bit more with that. And a bit less. The wooded area is okay, but on the right hand side it's okay, but it's not that exciting. And I think perhaps a bit more of a bombastic exfil, trying to justify a reason for that would have been valid. But other than that, I don't know. I'm fairly happy with the level I made. I think it's all right. Hopefully people enjoy it. Thanks.
There you go. That will do it for another episode of the show. Thanks to everyone who joined us. Please leave a comment and tell us if there's anything specific you want us to cover, or just say hello. Thanks to Jim for joining us this time.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks again to Brother Barracuda for feedback and support. Oh, and check out Sniper Elite Resistance. It just came out. It's cool, and it's more Sniper Elite. Follow us on socials and look forward to the next episode where we will take on the Spy Academy, an iconic Sniper Elite 5 level. See you then.
See you next time.